Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of people and events. I'm your host, Keith Willard. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm a little under the weather, so my voice is a little scratchy, so I apologize. But, as event planners, as event pros, the show must go on. And our guest today, Marina Luri-Clark, is one of those people that no matter what happens, the show goes on. And we're going to bring her on in a little bit to talk about all the good things and the bad things of being an event planner and how to get started in this world. But before I bring her on, let me bring on my co-host, Marcy Gutenberg, with An Affair to Remember by Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Hello.
I'm really excited. This is going to be a good conversation.
Exciting day today. Yes.
Yes. First of all, let's just say that we're not knocking things out of the park because we got our dates for the knot. So I'm super excited because we'll be announcing those two dates coming up. But yes, what a fantastic lead up to have Marina Luri on our show today. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, her work is gorgeous. I mean, I'm like still looking at all the website and all the details she has. It's just beautiful.
I love her. Well, let's bring her on the show. Marina, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yay! We're so excited for you to be on the show.
Excited.
We know you, but for those that don't, tell us a little bit about you and about your company. Tell us that.
So I run a company out of New York.
Whoops,
I have a business. Oh, that's okay. It's an exciting time.
I know, right? I'm all over the place.
So we do wedding planning, design, and production out of New York, Connecticut, and I have a business partner in Milan, Italy. So we work primarily in Europe and the United States. I've been in business for about 18 years through the highs and the lows.
Wow.
And I'm born in New York, but raised in Europe. So that's how we have this kind of like dual nationality going on with our company.
Nice.
And I love being in the business of making people happy.
Well, so I love the fact that you're just so casual about, yes, we have our, place in Europe and a place here. I mean, you're living the dream world of what, planners dream of getting to, right? I mean, the fact that, but your history is really incredible. I mean, you've worked hard to get where you are. I mean, considering that you've been the public relations with Donna Karen as the director of international public relations in Milan. So that's no small thing. Hermes is in your history. I mean, we are talking about some big names that you have worked up through and then decided that why did you decide to go out on your own? After working with these big companies, you were obviously working your way up the ladder.
So I was working in public relations, and at the time, public relations and events were, kind of like under one umbrella, advertising, right, marketing, and events. And I did a couple of really big events for these fashion companies, and I really loved it. I loved the production part of it. I loved putting everything together. I loved, understanding how things work. I was reflecting on this with a friend the other day that when I was in high school, I was never the actress. I was the one hanging the lights from the rafters. So that's the part that I really love. And so when things kind of started to change with the internet and social media and all of that, I decided I would just go into doing events, and that's kind of how we got started. So first it was, doing some fashion events, and then people started asking us to do their weddings or in-store events and corporate events. And so the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, I love the fact that you have you already had insight into some of these kind of high profile brands. Events, so you kind of knew what they needed to get across, because part of what we do, as an event planner, is to figure out what the goal is of our client. The end goal is like, what are they trying to promote, or what are they trying to do? And you already knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And, I studied fashion design and business, and designing, whether you're designing an outfit or a space, whether that's interior design or an event or whatever, to me, it kind of like art and fashion and design all kind of cross over together. So the leap from, fashion to designing an event wasn't that that big of a leap, so to speak.
Right.
You know, there's really one lesson. I'm going to say it here. It's like, if your eye is not fighting it, then it works together. And that's how you put together patterns and different colors and things. Like, I always look at something and I say, well, if my eye isn't fighting it, then it works.
Oh,
You know, I throw all the rules. Yeah. I throw rules out. Yeah. And, you
got to love to be able to do that, because it really does open up the creative field if you're not following like what other people have done or what is, considered successful, because how do you know what else is going to be successful unless you try it?
Right. I mean, I always say, like, dare to be creative, right?
Yeah.
Dare to do it. Like, and if it looks okay to you and it looks fun, like, I don't know, we're working on a wedding next year, and the bride and groom are, they love color. And so we're putting together a lot of different patterns and a lot of different color. And it doesn't all have to be matchy. It just has to be soothing to the eye. You know, It has to be fun and it looks good and make you happy. And so it's more about like what you're feeling, what you're seeing and what you're feeling, and the atmosphere that you're creating. That's,
I love that.
Do you draw a lot of inspiration from, because like for me, I'm also a designer, but my focus is stationery. So I find that I'm always looking at like anything that's tactile, whether it's art, whether it's, furniture or home decor or even architecture. I mean, you're always looking at all the different like elements, whether it's the lines or something about it to take into your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, every event that we do is different. It all depends on the client. So, this bride and groom want a lot of color, but then the week after, we have a very traditional and classic wedding. And so you do have to draw inspiration from different places. And sometimes it is from the stationery, right? I mean, it's one of the first elements that we kind of put together. So if there's something that strikes me on the invitation, I kind of like take that and follow it through to the rest of the event. So it comes from many different places.
Well, I mean, you had to start. I mean, obviously, when you see somebody that has gotten to the place that you've gotten to, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of effort, and and not everything's all hunky dory and roses on the pathway.
No.
If somebody wants to get to where you are, what are some, because I mean, that is the thing when people come up to us and they're like, oh my God, we love your work. You do so much great things. And, how would I, what do I do to get to where you are? And I'm like, well, first of all, you got to break, you gotta cry, you gotta fail. And then at some point, I know it's a little sad, right? But seriously, how would you, when you're talking to somebody that is trying to get into this event world, even the PR world, I mean, what are some of the first steps that people should be thinking about if they're interested in what we do?
So I think the secret to success in general is to be persistent. So I will tell you that my very first assistant was so persistent. I mean, she made me believe that we had met before. And so then I was caught off guard.
Love it.
So then she got in for a meeting with me. And then, obviously you have to be persistent and have the determination and have, the strength and stamina to want to enter this industry. It is not all glitz and glamour. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of like long hours, long days, a lot of crying, a lot of problem solving. And so I would say that if you really, really want to get into the industry, I would start by interning with a company or, do some work for free. That's okay. You're getting an education. That's better than an education because you're really learning on the spot as you go in high pressure situations, and then make yourself valuable to that company. And I promise you that we have hired a lot of our interns because they're already in, they already know the system, they know how it works. And then when a job opens up, we hire them. And I think that would be, the first step. And, don't be afraid to aim high, right? Like if you are dreaming of working with, I don't know, a big designer, like start knocking on that door.
Why
I mean,
not?
why not? Why not? What is the worst that can happen? They say, no, sorry, we're not looking for anyone right now. Throw it out there. I'll work for free. I'll work for free until, you understand my value. And I think that's the best way to begin. Honestly, you say, oh, you ended up working with these big designers and everything. I worked many summers as an intern carrying fabric swatches from one designer shop to another.
Woohoo!
Okay. And got paid nothing, but it was so exciting and exhilarating for me. And it kind of led me on the path of what I wanted to do. So, you do have to pay your dues. No doubt.
Oh,
no
God.
doubt.
Well, I mean, I remember like rolling carts and loading trucks and all that super fun stuff when I was first starting out.
I still do that.
Oh, I know. Me too. Please. Me too. But that's that part of it. It's like paying your dues. I mean, that whole idea of paying your dues, I feel sometimes has gone by the wayside with our youngest generation at the moment that feel like everything's like immediate, that you're going to learn everything immediate. Like, what can I not learn off of the web or YouTube? And I'm like, plenty. I guarantee you there's a ton out there that you're not going to be able to learn on YouTube. You got to experience it. Got to experience it.
Yeah.
Including failing.
Sure.
Including failing.
And actually, I mean, again, you don't grow and you don't learn if you don't fail.
Right. And
learn from those mistakes.
And when people say, no, we're not hiring we're not hiring at the moment. I love the fact that you said at the moment, because to me, that's hope. When you say at the moment, all right, that means tomorrow could be different. That means next week could be different.
And it is, every day is different in the event world. And as you know, sometimes it's very seasonal. So I might not be hiring at the moment, but that doesn't mean that, some jobs will come in and we need the extra staffing. Now, whether that's freelance or an intern or a full-time position, you just never know. So I like to keep the doors open, and I like to meet new people. And if they have, they're usually interesting people, and I think about them, about different needs that we have.
Yeah.
And, absolutely give people a chance.
How important is attitude in this business?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Positive attitude is everything. Trying to somehow making it seem like you're looking at sunshine when you're looking at a rainstorm seems to be a real talent in this industry that is needed badly.
With clients, I mean, especially, you don't want them to feel the pain that you're dealing with. You want to handle it for them and make everything great for them. Absolutely.
I love the fact that your assistant made you feel like you knew her.
I know. That was great.
That's amazing. That's like one of my favorite things I've ever heard, actually, is that. That's awesome.
Like we knew each other. And so I was like, okay, I have to take this call.
You're like, I love that. I love that. So
and again, that's determination, right? She was determined to get a job. And this was with Donna Karen many years ago, but she was determined to get that job. And, I always admire her for that.
That's incredible. So when you're thinking about events and you're thinking about somebody that's working their way up through the ranks, how do you figure out what your value is? I think that's one area that a lot of people get stuck at when growing their business. Is like, what is my value? What should my price point be when looking for future business type of thing? Is it one of those like kind of things where you have to like, try and fail and try and succeed until you find your price point? Because that feels a little like, ouch, kind of thing. You could lose out on some serious business. I mean, like, what's your thought?
You have to have a business plan, right? So I think you start with a business plan and understanding what your costs are. If you're working out of your house, it's one thing. If you're working out of an office and you have staff, it's another. So you need to figure out what your costs are, what your base costs are, and then try and understand, how much money do I have to make to to keep my business running, make a profit, and also pay people, including myself.
Right.
And so that's where you begin. And of course, doing some comparison shopping, like you need to know that, planners or designers or whoever, a photographer, a videographer is charging something different in Ohio than they are in New York City.
Right.
Or in Florida versus somewhere else. So I think you do some comparison shopping, and then you see what your costs are and put together a business plan. And that's kind of how you start. And listen, we went through 2008, the crisis, we went through COVID. We learned a lot of lessons even during that time. We changed, we entered new markets, and we understood that what we were charging in New York couldn't be charged somewhere else. And then our numbers got skewed. I mean, it is a little bit trial and error unless you have, your CFO standing by your side telling you, but I don't think everyone who starts knows that, so.
Well, and actually, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking to the Knot about is actually that big report that came out and that said the average cost of a wedding was $30,000. And we all had literally went, what are you talking about? What?
That's a great segue. So I do have a question for you. So where do you think, when somebody says to you, well, I saw this price, this is the price that we should be paying for X, Y, and Z. How do you manage their expectation at that point when they're looking online and they're seeing these figures that are not really realistic in the big scope?
So I'm as you know, I'm very open and very upfront.
Yes.
And I have learned that also with trial and error, right? I'm a people pleaser. So I want to make people happy, and I want to take on everything, and I want to do the wedding because I like the couple. But those days
I do that all the time.
Gone.
Horrible.
We just can't do that anymore. And so I talk people through, and one of the first things that I say, especially now with the cost of everything going up, I use this kind of simple analogy. I say, have you gone to the grocery store yet? And have you bought a gallon of milk? And how much has the price gone up? Okay, it's almost doubled. Well, that's the same in weddings. Everything you thought you were going to spend has pretty much doubled.
Right.
And that's consistent everywhere. So I am very upfront, and I tell them right away, it depends on what your expectations are. If you want to do a wedding with 20 people out in a field or, in a barn, whatever, this is what you can expect to spend. But if you are looking at Pinterest or Instagram and you saw a wedding at the New York Public Library with 1 million candles, candles are not cheap. They're not cheap. And the labor, especially to unwrap all those candles and put them in all the cylinders, and clean the cylinders and set them all up, that takes time and that takes labor. And so I kind of, I try and use very simple examples, things that people can understand.
That's hard sometimes too, because when people set up and I say, look, for one table, if you're sitting at home and you put out a couple of candles, you think, well, that was easy. That's no problem. I'm like,
multiply
okay,
that.
multiply that by 10, but then also remember that it's not just putting out a candle. It has to be unboxed, unwrapped, bought. There has to be a vessel. The vessel has to be cleaned. Then it has to be placed. Then I said, all those things cost money. And the number one thing that's going to cost is labor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think people really understand
labor and materials too. I mean, I find that people their expectation is, well, they saw it somewhere online and it's a beautiful item, and then they want the same thing, but realistically they're looking at the figures that are put out there in the public world, and they're not realistic to what their idea of what is a baseline. They don't understand what a baseline is.
Right. And, again, it all comes down to expectations. Are you okay with a 2-ply paper, or are you expecting a 4-ply paper? right? I mean, the cost is different. And because the cost of gas and the cost of labor and everything has gone up, the cost to get you that 4-ply paper is now twice as much. You know, trucking. Oh my God, trucking.
Oh my God,
yes.
Forget it. Trucking. We're talking, you know, tipping, trucking, all of these things that aren't on the beautiful world of Pinterest or Instagram.
Right.
You know, there have been a couple of great posts that I've seen go up, kind of like, this is what it's going to cost you, because yes, these numbers are coming out and I don't know where they're getting these numbers from. And
the Midwest. They're getting them from the
maybe, you know, it's not realistic.
Cake and punch event.
It's not realistic.
What do you say to somebody that says that they drop their price in order to get a particular client? Maybe it's a well-known client, maybe it's somebody that's, you know, big on social media, because this happens a lot. You know, you get asked, like I've been asked by people that it's like, well, you know, I've got a big following, I'm going to be able to tell all my friends about you, and I'm like, that's great, but the answer is still no. Like, you know, like my price is my price is my price, you know, but that's how I feel. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that anyone that appreciates your work will not ask you to do it for free.
Right.
So, you know, even charities that we work with have a budget. Yes. And so my feeling is that if you see a benefit out of it, like, especially if you're growing your business or you want to get to the next level and you think this is going to give me some publicity, or this is going to give me experience, or this is going to give me exposure to other people that I want to work with, I don't see anything wrong with that. But doing something completely for free with the promise that you're going to be on someone's Instagram account doesn't pay the bills, doesn't make you feel good when you're working your butt off, because you're still going to work just as hard.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that all of those followers are going to turn into business down the road. Like, if I could, you know, give a penny for every single time a bride says to me, well, we can't afford to do this, but we're going to tell all of our friends about you. Oh, really? How many friends have you told about me 3 years later, 4 years later? I still haven't seen anything out of that, you know? So, yeah, I think you need to feel, you need to get paid something in order to feel good about the work that you're putting into it. And then, you know, obviously weigh all of the benefits.
Well, because everything has value, but everything else has cost. You know, there's value and cost. And so you have to weigh out both. One of my big things is at least get paid in something, because there's value to what you do and value to who you are. And if you then undersell yourself, that means you're undervaluing yourself. Thank you very much. I can't speak today, but, but
you have to have the courage to say no, right? Like if you know, you want to get to that next level, it is so important to say no. And, you know, if you say yes to an event that you're not going to feel good about, you're not going to be able to post the pictures. You're going to work just as hard. You're not going to have the money to pay for what you want. And so what's the point? You know, and listen, there are a lot of people that are starting out that could take that event, and that is going to be, that's going to be a value for them. But it depends on where you are in your career. But,
and what you
know,
need.
yes, everything has a value. Yeah. And what you need. And I keep saying, and go ahead. Sorry. Marcy.
No, please.
I just, you know, I think I learned this many times from many of my colleagues and other vendors. You know, stop giving away your ideas. Get paid for your ideas.
Yeah.
Get paid for your ideas.
I love that. You know, don't give it all away on the first phone call. Oh my God. You know how long it took me to figure that out? Because I'm a little dumb. You know, I mean, I would get, because I get so excited talking to couples about their wedding. I mean, I love everything about wedding, you know, and you get on the phone and you're just like, and you're like, oh my God. And then this is who you should call, and this is who you should talk to, and this is what I would do. And before you know it, it's like, well, I've just told them everything I would have done. All right.
And they leave you and go work with someone else.
Yep. And then they got all my contacts. And then I get phone calls from my contacts, and they're like, thank you so much for referring me. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't supposed to be the way that worked. I was supposed to be the one that was helping you. But that's the other side of this is the value of a planner. I don't think people understand that it's not just our contacts. It's our knowledge and handling the logistics of the event from now until then, because there'll be things that continuously come up. And those are hard to always write down, what we do as planners. When you talk to couples, what are some of the things that you bring up that say, look, these are the things that I bring to the table? Or do you even get into that discussion because they should already know that by the time they get to
I think by the time they get to us, they kind of know what the value is that we bring to the table. But for other planners or for people that are just starting out, I think it's important to explain, the relationships that you have, the experience that you have, or maybe the experience that you don't have. You could say, look, let's say you get approached for one of your first weddings, and I would be honest. I would just say, listen, I have this kind of experience. I feel comfortable doing this size of an event with you. These are the vendors that I work with, blah, blah. Be honest, because otherwise it's going to backfire in your face.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's about meeting the client's expectation. So there's nothing wrong with starting out, but I would absolutely be honest with the client to let them know what your experience is, so that they don't think, oh, we're spending all this money, we're getting this expert, and the expert really only has her own wedding under her belt. So, I think it's important to definitely be open and transparent.
Yeah, but you could put it like, look, you're not going to have anybody that works any harder for you than me, because I have a lot to prove for myself. That's a great way of selling it. It's like, this may be my first big event, but I'm going to work like a dog for you, because right. Because this has to be a success for me just as much as it is for you. Because this will tell everybody like what my worth is. I love that. I think that the honesty value is a big piece in that. It's being able to say something to your client and be honest and upfront with them, and not do the whole sugarcoat stuff. Oh my God, if I get
you never want to sugarcoat. You never want to sugarcoat. Just don't say anything, but please don't sugarcoat.
Please don't blow smoke up anybody's butt. I am so over that, the whole like, well, it's all roses and sugar. I'm like, it's not. Weddings are hard.
Weddings are hard. So when it comes to us, like when people ask us, like, well, why should we hire you? Whatever. I always say things happen, right? Things happen. Hurricanes happen, weather happens, vendors drop out, budgets happen, things happen. That's
people
life.
Lose jobs.
And you lose jobs, whatever. So you hire us because we basically we're problem solvers. We're problem solvers and we're doers. And so we're going to take the stress off of you. Everything is going to be organized.
Yes.
You're not going to be looking on the internet for hours and hours for, the latest videographer, or getting advice from your friends. That might not be a perfect fit for you. We work with you to understand what your budget is, to understand what your style is, to understand all of the things about you, so that your wedding or your event meets your goals and is a reflection of you. So, I think, planners are priceless. They're priceless.
They really are. Well,
in addition to the value of your experience and everything else that we've talked about today, there's also a value to the fact that you have all these tools at your hand. You not only is your website an extension of you, but you also have all these other tools, whether it's your timeline or every other aspect that you're putting money and you're putting effort into learning, so that you can help them better for their event.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Marcy, it's as if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to design my own invitation. I wouldn't know where to begin, by the way.
I don't either. I'm like, well, I barely can get into Canva. I'm sorry. I don't even remember what my login is.
Yes. To be honest with you, yes. I do get people that will say that. But to be honest with you, is it going to be the quality that you're really looking for? There's so many other aspects to it. I source from very reputable and very high quality companies. I've done all the vetting ahead of time. And not only that, you really don't
Right.
save money on
Mm.
making invitations. If you love doing creative things and you want your guests to have an experience of your creativity and doing it by hand, that's one thing. But if you're looking to save money, you're actually going to wind up spending a lot more money in the long run to begin with.
I agree.
So that's
I
not
agree,
really
because
why
you're
I
going to
would,
make
I would
mistakes.
recommend.
Yeah,
Well-
and you're going to make mistakes along the way. What about that person
Exactly.
that prints their design on a piece of paper? Oh, yes, it's heavyweight. And then you get it and you're like,
Right.
what's this?
That's not
Right.
heavyweight.
I mean, the toner, the
Heavyweight.
materials, everything,
Yeah,
all your time,
everything.
all of those details.
Well, what
It
I try
all-
to
they all
tell
add up.
what I try to tell nude planners is educate yourself on everybody's job, because
Right.
Yes.
you can't make great decisions or help your couple make great decisions if you don't know what the catering manager at a hotel has to go through, because they have a boss, they have sales goals, they have this. You cannot tell your client that, they're going to be willing to add a cocktail reception, or they're going to be able, just if you ask, they're going to give you 3 nights free. That's
Yeah.
not the case for everybody. You got to
No.
know what hotels are going through. Same thing when it comes to like being a DJ or entertainment or bands. What kind of electrical needs do they have? What's clean power? A lot of people don't even understand that you've got to have clean power for speakers so you don't get the buzz that you used to, that people
Right.
hear all the time. But
Right.
be open to learn everybody else's position. You're not trying to
Yeah.
be those people, but you're trying to make sure that you're educating your clients so that vendors want to work with you. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's your connection. Because if vendors go, man, we love this planner, she or he asks all the right questions up front, and guess who they're going to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also being willing to collaborate, right? And I've said
Yes.
this before, you can't have an ego, because if the team doesn't
God
come
bless.
together, if there's one squeaky wheel, the event doesn't happen. You really have to work together as a team. And I'll never forget this. Somebody that I was working with, there was a hurricane. Everybody's production schedule got moved by 3 days.
Boy.
And he sat at the table, at a round table with all of the vendors, and he said, "We have a wedding to deliver. Are you going to deliver it or not?" And it was a real wake-up call, because everyone has an excuse. Oh, we have other events that we have to do. Oh, we can't shift the production. Okay, but we can't put this event together. There's a hurricane coming. We're getting evacuated. Okay, so the idea of setting up on a Monday is not happening. It's not happening on a Tuesday either. So we're going to have to cram everything into 2 days. How are we going to do this? And of course, people were losing money, double booked on events. Their days turned into nights. But at the end of the day, we had to deliver that wedding. We had no choice. So everybody's got to pull together and do whatever it takes, and literally whatever it takes, even 20, 24-hour days, because you have to deliver it. And so if you don't have that attitude, and if you don't have that mindset, this business is not for you.
I agree. Suck it up and put on your big boy pants. Stop being a little, I am hardcore about that. Thank you. I'm so glad you said that, because, oh my God, that drives me crazy when people do that. I'm like, stop your whining. Oh my God.
Stop whining, You're getting paid. You're getting paid. You're making people happy. We're in an amazing business. We get to meet incredible people. We get to travel. We get to do so many things.
So many amazing things.
And I'm the first one. Sometimes you're tired, you're cranky, you're sitting in the closet crying by yourself, maybe with one of the vendors, like complaining. Okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
But then move on.
Right. Move on.
Do
your venting and move on, but don't let that attitude hang all over you the whole time. You don't want to be an infection.
And honestly, help each other out. Help each other out. Like if I see that one of my vendors is struggling, and could use one of my staff to help them carry in all their cases or whatever, just help them out. Like it's not a big deal. You're going to get the work done faster, and that person's going to appreciate it. And like you said, they're going to say, wow, we love working with these people. Let's do it again.
Let me tell you something. A big thing that I learned from my assistant is say thank you.
Of course.
Because I always am very like thankful anyway, all the way through it. I'm always like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Whatever we can do. But at the end of the night, it's the end of the night. And sometimes you're like, oof, I'm tired. And she's like, she takes the time to go to every single waiter, every single bartender, every single person and says, thank you. And I had forgotten to do that. It's something I had forgotten along the way that, it's great that I say it along, during the day, but when everybody's at their the most tired, there's that one little thank you, man, makes a huge difference. It is crazy what a difference that makes.
Huge.
So, hey, good for you, Brooke, if you're listening, I mean, but seriously, it's incredible because it really does make a huge difference just having that one little piece, right? Saying thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's the little things. It really is.
What do you think about handwritten thank you notes and picking up the phone when it comes to
I'm a big believer of that.
Right.
I'm a big believer of that because it's somewhat unexpected, right?
Yes,
it's somewhat unexpected these days. And so when someone does that for me, I'm just so happy to get that handwritten note. I'm happy to get the email as well. I'm definitely happy to get the email as well, but a handwritten note or a phone call, or how many times I sit there, I'm like, okay, I could just keep emailing back and forth. Why don't we just pick up the phone and have a conversation? Because the tone is different. And the feelings are there, and maybe you go off on a little bit of a side conversation and you build a relationship. So big proponent of that for sure.
When people are building their business, they're like, how do you build your business? I say, answer the phone, the phone, pick it up, say hello. Don't let it go to voicemail. Pick it up.
And go, social media is great. Don't get me wrong. I love social media. It's great. It's how we do business. But there is something to be said about getting out there and meeting people face to face. And again, just along the path of my career, whether it's picking up the phone, my old boss used to spend all Friday with a list of people to call, and she would call everybody on that list and make phone calls and connect with them. Someone else told me, go to every single industry event that you can go to. Just go and meet people. And you're not just getting phone calls from social media or from your website. You're getting referrals from venues, from vendors, from other people, in the industry. And so that human connection, that human touch is so important. I can't even stress it enough, really. As soon as you have enough money to go to like a conference or something, go.
Well, and it's also that face to face where they see you and remember you.
Yes.
And they're more apt to call you because you're right there. They've had
You're
that
a friendly face. Look, I did an Instagram live a couple of weeks ago with someone out of LA. And, I told him when I didn't know you, I was really intimidated by you. Like I would have never cold called you. I would have never come up to you, but we happened to be in the same place at the same time. And our personalities came through and we hit it off and we built a friendship, but I would have never, ever in a million years called that person, So I think that human touch is just so important. And again, you feel more comfortable working with people that you know.
Right. It's absolutely true. Well, and then what do you think? And obviously we're going to wrap this up, but what do you feel is like one of the hardest part of this, of what we do in this job, when you're talking to somebody new that is getting into the business and you're saying, okay, these are all the great things. What's like one of the bad things that you would want to tell yourself looking back?
Well, I've always been a hard worker. And when I was working in fashion, we were used to working like many hours during the day, many hours, doing whatever it takes. But that is the hardest part, physically, mentally, being able to problem solve on the fly, coming up, with different solutions. Because listen, we have plan A, B, C, and D, but they might all go out the window one day. You just never know. So you have to be able to turn on a dime. And I think that that's the difficult part, really. I see some of the people that work for us, like they just, they don't have the stamina. And I'm like, I could be your grandmother, like
Right?
get up and go.
Get your ass up and move. Oh
It's
yeah.
definitely, production, whether you're doing, Broadway production or production for a concert, entertainment, any kind of entertainment stuff. They're long hours and physically demanding jobs, right?
Yeah.
I do know a lot of planners that like gather all their vendors and then they just show up when everything is done. But I just don't think that those people are going to get to a certain level. I don't think you can do it.
I can't be that person. I really can't. That would freak me out.
If you could sit down with one person who's somebody who is alive or somebody who's passed away, who would that be?
Event world or like just
event
world? Yeah, in the event world. Oh, Robert Isabel.
Oh, really?
Robert Isabel, because he was one of the first people in the industry when the event industry really didn't exist.
Right.
So I'd love to know like how he started and how he did it and how he broke through and how but listen, even today, whenever I have the opportunity to speak to people who have made it in the business, I'm always asking them like, how did you do it?
Yes.
How did you do it? What was the difference? Like always. And you'll be surprised at how people started, like selling flowers on the street corner or,
it's
a million different ways.
Yeah. It's
sometimes
amazing.
It's not even a veteran, sometimes it's not even somebody who's been in the industry for very long. They just totally segued into it and they just have a total different spin.
Well, we've talked to Colin Cowie and David Terra and some of these other big names, and it's amazing. Like David used to get shoved into lockers when he was a kid. Colin started his event when he was in the Army, putting together like special events when they were at war. These are like crazy kind of. So everybody has their own like how I got here story.
Yes.
But the common thread is like the persistence and the determination.
100%.
Right? And the stamina and 100%. The creativity, right? Like to set themselves apart and take those risks again of failing, because you're going to fail. And it's how you learn from those mistakes and how, the attitude that you have that gets you ahead, I think, anyway.
Yeah. And you're never too old to start over, ladies.
You're never too old to start over. You just have to have the will and the determination. Look at Martha Stewart.
Right?
Look at Martha Stewart. How many things did she have go against her?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And look at her now.
Yeah. Yes. I think that goes back to your thing about no ego, though. I feel like all of these, there's some very common denominators that are running through all of these descriptions about success, which is don't take no for an answer. Don't be afraid of no. Let's just say that. Don't be afraid of no. Don't be afraid of restarting. Don't be afraid of failing. All these things that I think as society, we try to shy away from. Because social media is always about being a perfect day. Oh, look at me, sunshine and happiness. But that's not how the world works. And that's not how you become successful. You become successful by restarting and doing it again and again and again and again.
And doing things out of the box.
Right.
We had on my cousin, Keith and I, and that's Steve Gutenberg. And he just found his way on one of the lots and took a empty room and made it into his office, and that's how he started his career.
Isn't that funny?
He just was persistent.
Yeah, that still blows my mind that he just took an empty room. An empty room on a lot. Wasn't his, didn't belong to him, but they didn't know that.
Yeah. So. It's just kind of like my assistant. She called and she made believe she knew me, and and she just had the courage. She had the courage to do it.
Yes.
You know, and the other thing that I wanted to add to what you just said is that you really, and I've said this recently in a couple of podcasts and interviews, is you have to look for opportunities. They're not going to come to you. You have to look for opportunities and not be afraid to go after those opportunities, right? So don't be afraid. If you want to work for Colin Cowie, keep calling his office. Sooner or later, someone's going to take the call.
Somebody's going to take the call. So,
and
Marina,
offer to work for free.
Oh my goodness. So Marina, you've been
Get your
amazing.
foot in the door.
I love it. You've been amazing. If people wanted to reach out to you, get connected with you, how would they do that?
So you can go on our Instagram, Marina Luri Events, or you can go on our website, marinalurievents.com. And then our email is info@marinalurievents.com.
Love it. And do you have a LinkedIn page?
I don't have a business LinkedIn page, but you can absolutely link with me. It's Marina Luri-Clark.
Amazing. Marina, you have been sensational, amazing, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
much for being on the show.
Yes.
And
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we can have you back at some point. Yeah.
Well, I might see you next week in Florida.
Oh, that's right. Next week in Florida. Oh gosh, I totally forgot. All right, my love. Thank you again. And
thank you so much.
Everybody that's watching, thank you also. We will be back next Tuesday at 2:00. But for now, we're all going to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.